Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Leela, Chapter 6, Text 172. व्यास भ्रांत बलि से सूत्रे दोष दिया, विवर्तवाद स्थापिया चे कल्पना करिया. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is speaking here with Sarvam Bhattacharya and speaking about how the impersonalists labor under a misconception and they propagate a much bigger misconception in society. And what is that? The Vedanta Sutra is one of the most important works of Vyasadeva. It is a seminal book for with all Vedantic philosophers. And therein Vyasadeva, Badarayan Rishi, he strives to reconcile various contradictory seeming statements from the Upanishads and to reveal their underlying common essence, their consistent final conclusion. And he does so in very concise sutra-like statements that are often thought by impersonalists to be or that are generally known to be very terse and very difficult to understand without proper illumination by authorized commentators. So, for example, in the Vedanta Sutra, a section from the Upanishads is taken, and what is the meaning of that particular section? That is deliberated. It's not mentioned also there, okay, which Upanishad is being referred to. It just said in the Shruti, it is said like this. And this means like this, and this does not mean like this. So, reasoning is given and conclusion or inference is given. Now, in doing so, there are some fundamental defining truths, such as the immutability of Brahman. Brahman is spiritual. Brahman by nature, by identity, is non-material. And because Brahman is non-material, it cannot be subjected to material laws. And material laws include the law of being under illusion. Now, we are not talking about laws of science here, in terms of science as we understand, as understood in the mainstream academic world nowadays. We're talking about the principle that we can move step by step onwards towards understanding the import of the Vedanta Sutra if we don't try to obfuscate the meaning of its self-evident or authoritative, undisputed principles. So, for example, the immutability of Brahman, that Brahman doesn't change, is a given truth. How is that immutability to be reconciled with the mutability of the world? That is a question that has exercised Vedantic thinkers since time immemorial. Impersonalists try to get a shortcut out of it by stating that actually there is only the immutable Brahman, and anything that is mutable is simply an illusion. And by thus, somewhat simplistically, trying to resolve what is a very complicated question by talking about a two-level reality wherein there is Vyavaharik and Paramarthik. So in Vyavaharik, they say that everything is in this world is okay. We can consider it reality for practical purposes, but from the ultimate perspective, it is not real. It is just illusion, and therefore we need to ultimately go beyond it all. Now, if you see Vyasadeva himself has written so many literature, and not only has he written so many literature at so many levels, he's even written the Bhagavatam, and most of them, this is Ramacharya's response to this kind of argumentation by Shankaracharya, that actually all the descriptions of personhood, all the descriptions of emotions and reciprocations and relationships, all these are lower level reality which are ultimately to be transcended. So Ramacharya's response to this is, first of all, where is it specifically, explicitly stated in the scripture that all this, even in the form of the Lord, is to be transcended? And if that were the case, if bhakti also is to be transcended, then the overwhelming majority of scripture talks about bhakti. So that means Vyasadeva would have committed an error either by stating that Brahman is immutable when it is actually mutable, or he has committed an error by stating that, by giving a vast, overwhelmingly majority description of that which is within the realm of illusion. And thus, either way, it's a lose-lose situation, because it happens that Vyasa has adopted a wrong strategy, and somehow to preserve Vyasa's correctness, what they say is that actually, yes, this Vyavaharik reality is real at the conditional stage, and afterwards you'll go beyond it, then you will realize it's unreal. But although they seem to be preserving the truthfulness of Vyasadeva's words by talking about this two-level reality of Vyavaharik and Paramarthik, but the problem with such classification is that although they say that, okay, in this way, Vyasa's statement that Brahman is immutable is preserved, but at the same time, the majority of the descriptions of Vyasa of the nature of the world, they are shown to be false. They are shown, they are not really shown, they are assumed or postulated as of a level of reality that is for all practical purposes an illusion. So in this way, actually speaking, the integrity of Vyasa is also not preserved. And the Vaishnava Vedantists, the personalists, they explain that the way to preserve the truthfulness of Vyasa's words is to recognize that there is Brahman, and Brahman has energies, and the energies are mutable. Baldev Vidyabhushan in Vedanta Sutra, commented Govind Bhashi explains that the soul proper is unchangeable, but the soul's consciousness does change, and that's how transmigration from one species to another, and the subsequent adapting of the soul's mentality to the new species, that becomes possible. And that's how, because of the potentiality for the change of consciousness, that's how purification and liberation is possible. So just as the soul remains unchanging and its consciousness changes, and we could say roughly that the consciousness is the energy of the soul, so similarly the Supreme Lord remains immutable, but at the same time his energies change, and the change of the energies does not imply incorrectness in the statement of Vyasadeva. It simply points to the subtlety, the complexity, and the immensity of the absolute truth, something that is not due recognition, when the absolute truth is simplistically reduced to a formless, personalist, attributeless light, and apart from that, everything is deemed an illusion. So, although the impersonalist ideas purport to protect Vyasa from having committed a mistake, they end up actually accusing Vyasa of a bigger mistake, and themselves are mistaken because they reject the essential conclusion that Vyasadeva came to give. Thank you.